this theatre back in '74 was scheduled for demolition. We were going to visit the theatre and take it over as a people's theatre to be run for amateur productions within the northeast. It was a very exciting day. We all met outside with torches, and we met a very strange gentleman who was the janitor of the theatre at the time, and he showed us in to the main auditorium at the back here. There were no light bulbs. The place was very much in darkness. Unfortunately, we'd brought torches along, and the whole group, the whole operatic society, came down through the back of the auditorium down this main aisle behind me, shining our torches into this wonderful auditorium. But it was a very ghostly experience, because if you can see the statue that's in the ormolu that is over on the far side, had a very sort of mysterious atmosphere to it. Where this theatre differs from the Theatre Royal is the fact that Theatre Royal was built or opened in 1837, which was the first year of Queen Victoria's reign. That was very much at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, and that stage was built purely as an inclined stage with only one demon trap. This theatre was built 30 years after the Theatre Royal opened, and as such in 1867 was at the cutting edge of technology. It was right in the middle of the Industrial Revolution. And this stage was produced, was far advanced in what the Theatre Royal could offer the public at that particular point, because everything you see on this stage is movable. There are demon traps and lifts all over this stage, which the Theatre Royal does not have. The very first thing that you notice on the front of the stage are 3 traps, which are just purely trapdoors, and they are called prompt traps. The clue being in the name prompt is because in those days, instead of operating a repertory company which runs a production every week, in those days a production or a theatre company would be called a stock company, whereby they would have stock characters and stock scenery, like a stock leading man who would have a person who would just be the leading lady, do all the leading lady parts, but they would produce a different play every night. To keep track of their libretto must have been quite a monumental task, changing your production every night. And because the auditorium would be noisy, because it was illuminated all the time because of the sunburst chandelier gaslight, the theatre would be quite a noisy, rowdy place. Keeping track of your libretto would be a bit of a hard point. So underneath these traps, there would be people with the librettos where they were able to feed prompts to the various actors on stage. As you move further up the stage, we come to what is probably the pièce de résistance of movable English wooden stage, are the demon traps. And we have on this side, on the stage left side, the demon trap, because in the tradition of pantomime in this country, the villain or the baddie always enters on stage left. Reflected on the opposite side of the stage, we have the fairy godmother trap, which for obviously reasons, the goodie always appears on the right of the stage. And in the centre we have the Hamlet trap or grave trap, for obvious reasons, is because you can raise and lower a coffin through that trap. But the really clever bit about this whole stage is it has 4 major lifts. And those lifts extend from the wings, from the edge of the curtain, the drop cloths on the curtain, right to the far side of the stage, where the whole section of stage can be dropped and withdrawn underneath the stage, and it can then lift various bits of equipment through the stage which in its day, back in 1867, must have been quite a wonderful experience for the audience to see a transformation scene taking place before their very eyes, which the Theatre Royal could not do. The real magic of the transformation scene in this theatre takes part with this equipment called the main lifts. Now there are actually 4 of them. 4 lifts. Because it was all manpower, whereby you needed a lot of men to be able to operate them, per lift you needed 8 men. So if you had 4 lifts in operation at the same time, you're talking 30 odd men. But the main secret of how it actually works, when you're ready for a scene change, what actually happens is somebody will come along and will move this button, which would allow this corner of the stage to drop. And pulling on the rope would cause the stage section to slide underneath this section of the stage right back to the back wall, revealing the lift. And then they would start winding on these handles and they would raise the lift up through the stage. Because they were built to be as light as possible, because there was very little in the way of mechanical advantage, they were built hollow section. So to disguise them on the smaller lifts, the same sort of thing with these two, they're called sloats, they would have masking, which would be canvas with the scene painted on, or cardboard of some sort, which would change the scene. One of the magical parts of this machinery is the demon trap. And basically, an actor would stand on this little platform here, whereby he could be propelled through an opening which would appear on the stage. Now this little platform here is counterbalanced by these weights on either side. So you can set them to either propel the person upwards very quickly, or you can lessen the weight so you could actually lower them from the stage. It's called a jump trap because as this is set to ricochet right the way up through that stage, you had to open your legs, otherwise you would start bouncing up and down on the platform. Quite an interesting piece of equipment. We didn't know how to get onto the stage. So we came up there and some of us, the more adventurous and younger of us, managed to climb up on stage and squeeze past between the proscenium arch and the screen to get to the back of the stage. And there we were met with quite a surprise, because there in place was the original set of a production called Maid of the East, which was the last 3-week run before the theatre closed as a theatre back in 1919, when it was taken over by the Stahl Picture Corporation. But behind that cloth there was the set, and all pieces of scenery that had been left and collected over the years was just dumped and placed on the back of the stage.